Now, the Prime Minister told the country yesterday to hold its nerve. But where are people supposed to find the money in the meantime to pay for the Tory mortgage bombshell?
I say, Rachel Reeves, go get him, Tiger. Only kidding. But hello, Elena, do hope you're all well. And can I just say straight away, thank you so much for all your love and get well messages. So many of them, I struggle to get through them. So if I didn't reply yet, I really do apologise. There were just so many, and everyone who showed so much love and wish my beloved a speedy recovery. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and my wife's as well. We really, really appreciate it so much. Thank you. But anyway, we're back in the House of Commons. And yesterday, our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, made a statement about the mortgage charter. Well, Shadow Home Secretary, Labour's Rachel Reeves, got up to poke holes in it and clearly used a three-worded slogan that looks like it's going to be used a lot in the coming weeks.
Families are worried, sick to their stomach, about what is happening at the moment. But the Prime Minister says, don't worry, it will all be OK. But it's not going to be OK for the millions of homeowners who face an average increase of mortgage costs this year of £2,900. And all of this during a wider cost of living crisis. Now, the Prime Minister told the country yesterday to hold its nerve. But where are people supposed to find the money in the meantime to pay for the Tory mortgage bombshell? The Chancellor and the Prime Minister have not yet said. For many, the Tory mortgage bombshell will mean holidays cancelled, families' savings draining away and missing out on days spent with family and friends. But for others, it could be much worse. Not moving up the housing ladder, but heading down it through no fault of their own. The Chancellor doesn't need to take my word about how many people will be facing the Tory mortgage bombshell. He could speak to any of the 11,600 families in his own constituency who will be paying £450 more every month in mortgage costs alone as a result of this Conservative government. The Resolution Foundation estimate that millions of households will have to pay a combined total of £15.8 billion more in mortgage payments a year by 2026. That is just devastating. The Tories gambled last autumn with people's livelihoods, and since then things have got worse, not better. Yet ministers take no responsibility for the damage that they have caused and blame anything and everyone else. Yet again today, the government claims that there are global factors, that it's all global factors. Yet the latest data show that a typical household in Britain is now paying over £2,000 more per year for their mortgage than in France. Over £1,000 more per year than in Ireland or Belgium, and over £800 per year more than in Germany. Now, the Chancellor is going to need a better scapegoat. Labour set out our plans last week. Our measures were a requirement. Yes, a requirement. Because all lenders need to play their part when people are struggling. Our plan would have provided real help, but government have provided just a bad cover version. While many banks and building societies are doing the right thing by their customers, a voluntary set of measures is just not good enough. The Chancellor today said that the voluntary measures would cover 85% of the mortgage market. What is his answer for the more than 1 million families who are missing out because their lender hasn't signed up to this scheme? Tough luck? Just how bad does it have to get before the Chancellor recognises that mandatory action is needed to provide meaningful assistance? So I would like to ask the Chancellor the following questions. Can he confirm what consequences there are for firms who have not signed up to this scheme? Where is the plan for renters, who the Chancellor didn't even mention in his statement today, many of whom are paying higher rents because the mortgage costs of their landlords have gone up? Why does the Chancellor think that savers are not enjoying the full benefits from rising interest rates in the same way that mortgage holders are feeling the full pain? Why does the Chancellor think that the UK has the highest inflation in the G7? And does he still think the government is on track with its own target of halving inflation by the end of the year? How does the Chancellor think that getting rid of house building targets will help increase home ownership? And finally, Mr Speaker, 6 days ago, the Chancellor said in this House that he was proud of the government's economic record. With energy bills twice as high as they were last year, with food inflation close to 20%, and with millions hit by the Tory mortgage bombshell, is he seriously saying that he is proud of that record? Mr Speaker, people work hard to get on the housing ladder, yet dreams now risk becoming nightmares due to the decisions of this Conservative government. The Chancellor today has come to the House with a watered-down package that does not meet the task of dealing with the Tory mortgage bombshell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I'll deal with her specific points first. She says these measures should be mandatory. So why did Labour oppose the intervention power in the Financial Services and Markets Bill that would have made that possible? She said that she wants action for savers, and I have indeed been talking to banks about action for savers, and we will keep the House updated. But what she carefully did not mention is that we actually secured on Friday more than Labour committed to, because our measures provide protection for people missing for payments, not for 6 months, but for 12 months. But the main point, Mr Speaker, is that she wants people to think that she is fiscally responsible. She won't take risks with inflation. So why on earth is she committed to borrowing £28 billion a year more, when as a former Bank of England economist she should know that will be inflationary and push up the cost of mortgages? Don't listen to me, Mr Speaker. Listen to people like Paul Johnson of the IFS, who said about Labour's plans, and I quote, "Additional borrowing both pumps more money into the economy, potentially," and she may not want to hear this, this is what Paul Johnson says about Labour's plans. Quite, additional borrowing both pumps more money into the economy, potentially increasing inflation, and also drives up interest rates. It's Labour's mortgage bombshell, hidden in plain sight. Isn't the reason she doesn't want people is that she doesn't want people to notice the real comparison here, which is that her party faced an economic crisis in 2008, just as this government did last year. The difference is that we are taking the difficult decisions to restore sound money and public finances. They ducked each and every one of those decisions, ran out of money and left it to others to clear up the mess.
John Redwell.
Now, when it comes to this sort of stuff, numbers and figures like that, it's not my game. I was terrible at maths as a kid, and even now I still struggle to get my head around them. But what Rachel Reeves said seemed to make sense with what I was listening on the James O'Brien show earlier, and I was hearing a lot of the same thing from callers. I particularly remember one caller saying she felt insulted by what Rishi Sunak said about holding your nerve, where she basically said that when I tell my son, "Sorry, I cannot afford to pay for some of your school uniform," I'm supposed to tell him, "Not to worry, son, just hold your nerve." Or when I tell my daughter, I also cannot afford to pay for her school trip she wants to go on and desperate to go on because I have to find £250 extra to keep the roof over our heads going, do I just tell her, "Don't worry, my dear, just hold your nerve"? But when our grinning Chancellor got up to practically say, "You should have backed our plan for whatever it was," nowadays it just seems hollow, doesn't it? After 13 years of Tory austerity, you're not going to get away with that. I particularly laughed at our brave Andrew Griffiths pointing and giving it large while hiding underneath our Chancellor's legs as he was saying it as well. What a carder. But the Paul Johnson line really tweaked my interest, so I searched for this quote online to try and find out more about it. And the only place where I could find where it was in an article from David Gauke a couple of days ago in the Conservative Home that had the quote in it. And if anybody can find another one, just leave it in the description, in the comments below. I'll be really happy. But to summarise what he said was this article discussed the challenge faced by opposition parties using the example of UK's Labour Party in reassuring the public about their approach to public finances, while also pursuing radical policies to improve people's lives, saying Labour needs to convince the public that they can manage the economy effectively and address the cost of living. However, they must strike a balance between being too cautious, which could be seen as lacking credible growth plan, and being too bold, which could lead to accusations of increased taxation and borrowing. The article also highlights recent discussions regarding Labour's Green Prosperity Plan, which involves an annual investment of £28 billion in the green economy. Now, there are rumours that Labour might drop this pledge. Now, whether they have or they haven't, I'm still not up in the air on that, but which has prompted calls for clarity on their policy, clearly. Labour's economic thinking seems to be influenced by the Biden's administration approach, get the teeth in, emphasising the role of the state in the economy and supporting the green economy to address issues such as climate change and economic inequality. Now, the Biden administration has been spending heavily, which has raised concerns about sustainability of US public finances and inflationary pressures. Aligning with US policy may have its appeal now, but it could leave Labour vulnerable to criticism by the time of the next general election. Labour will face questions about meeting the government's fiscal rules, particularly regarding overall borrowing as a percentage of GDP. Labour plans to change the definition of debt to include what it owns as well as what it owes, which they argue is a valid approach apparently. However, recent changes to the fiscal rules by the government may pose challenges for Labour if they stick with the £28 billion spending plan. Another set of questions arises about the effectiveness of spending £28 billion on the green economy for improving economic growth. While it may address climate change and create jobs in deprived areas, there is a need for prioritise objectives and ensure that it doesn't become a mere competition for green subsidies with other countries. Also said Labour faces a choice. Now, whether they have abandoned it, I don't know. I get the feeling they've watered it down. That's how I see it. Whether they abandon the £28 billion pledge and lose significant policy area, or they can embrace the argument and make a case for their own fiscal rules and willingness to borrow for investment. Now, recent polling suggests that the public is more sympathetic to these arguments, but the Conservatives could link higher borrowing for higher inflation, hence the quote that keeps being pulled out to try and put that support to the test. Now, the Green Prosperity Plan is one of Labour's key policies apparently, but it also presents a political vulnerability. And the recent intervention by John Glenn is seen as a test of Labour's commitment to the £28 billion pledge. Now, whether the pledge stays or goes will likely become a defining issue in the next general election campaign for Labour. So in the end up, I'm not saying Labour's plan is right and credible because I don't really know enough about this sort of stuff. As I say, numbers and figures always confuse me, especially big numbers. The bigger, even more confused. But I did notice that Jeremy Hunt in yesterday's topicals didn't fill me with any confidence, or this Tory party either, and especially with what's happened over the recent months and our Prime Minister's performance on Sunday as well. I don't think they have a plan either. So in the end, I'm just going to ask you, who do you think is right? Let me know down below, because I'll be really, really fascinated as to who you think is more right than the other. Is it Rachel Reeves or Jeremy Hunt? Is it the Conservative Party or is it Labour? I don't know. But anyway, I shall leave the video here again. I just want to say thank you so much for your well wishes and your kindness and love. Overwhelming and touching. And I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends, and thank you.